Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I know that there are a million other places you could be right now on this beautiful day, but you decided to join us for our RITI presentation. And this is going to be a good one because many of us have ideas about starting a business. And we have here today Dr. Rick Baldwin, who is going to share some information by presenting a training on business development. So just to let everyone know, this presentation is being recorded and it will be available on our YouTube channel, which is PVAMU Research. Once it is edited, it will be available there. And I encourage you to subscribe to our research channel and to all of our social media platforms so that you can get the current information on what's happening in research and innovation. So without further ado, Dr. Rick Baldwin, take it away.
Good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Rick Baldwin. I'm one of the directors of the PVR&I University Innovation Initiative. I'm also a professor in the College of Business, teaching the Innovation and Entrepreneurship program. Today, I will be making a presentation or training dealing with PVAMU business development process. This is a process for entrepreneurs. They could be faculty, students, alumni, or even staff members. This process will involve their resources from both the College of Business, the IEP program, the School of Architecture Fabrication Center, and also the Small Business Development Center. In going through this process of business development, there's several I do have control of the screen. Okay, so in this process in entrepreneurship, there are 8 steps in building a business that we will be going through in this presentation. And going through each one of those steps, we'll be addressing the idea generation or idea creation, the steps to go in when an entrepreneur comes up with an idea. What are the steps an entrepreneur would go through in bringing this idea to, into a business. The second step is to take this idea and look at it from a standpoint, is there a need or an opportunity for a business for this idea? So that will be the second stage we'll be going through in this presentation. The third, once we identify there is a need and opportunity, we have to do what we call a feasibility study or a feasibility analysis, where we would determine whether or not can this business idea really generate with revenue, or can it make a social impact or economic impact? So we'll go through the stages or the steps in developing a feasibility study. The fourth step will be looking at the intellectual property or any regulation that would surround this idea that you may have to put in place or to take in consideration in making this idea a business venture. And the fifth one of the most important ones, developing either a business model, and we'll be talking about the business model canvas quite a bit in developing this model. And the second part would be, do you develop a prototype? If it's a type of product, how do you go about developing that product? And this is where the Fabrication Center at PVAMU would come into play, and also to the Innovation Entrepreneurship Program at PVAMU have access to 3D printers that would assist entrepreneurs in developing their idea into a tangible product there. Now, once the idea is processed, then we look at the next stage, which would be marketing, consumer research. How do you go about seeing if this idea or this model will be approved or accepted by the consumer market? So we do market and customer tests. And so we'll go into the detail and describing how you would test your idea in the real market there. The seventh, and next to the last step, we will look at our launch strategy. How do we go about launching this business? And that's why we looked at the some of the properties. If it's intellectual, there's going to be some guidelines or requirements that we're going to have to take in consideration when we actually launch in this business. Or we might choose just to launch it on our own. So we'll go into the steps of the type of business that you can actually set up if you're going to take your business idea and bring it out there into reality. And the final step is they're actually developing a business plan. And this is very important because in order to get funding sources from investors or going to a traditional banker, that one of the first things they're going to want to see is going to be their business plan. So we'll talk about the components that makes up the business plan and why it's so important in the business development process. So before we go forward, I'm sure there's a lot of you guys that probably have ideas that you often thought about. I know I did starting off, whether or not I got this great idea, do I want to start a business? So I'm just kind of get a feel, how many of you guys really have a drive that you want to, ever had that drive that you want to start your own business? But from this, let's be, a lot of entrepreneurs have the idea, and the whole goal is, what do I do with this idea? So what our goal is to assist the entrepreneur in developing a business to manage the idea for economic or social impact. Keep in mind, your idea may not always have to be for a for-profit company or business. It also can be for a nonprofit. So it can have a social impact. So in this process, there's ways that we can take this idea and take it from just being a dream or just a research project and make it into a business. So the question I ask, why not start a business? And many of us probably have thought about it, but we never have taken that step there. So this training session is all about how to go about starting a business there. So once your idea has been identified, what in our programming and innovation, we want to assist the entrepreneur in identifying what opportunities that exist out there that their idea can address. If the idea or the opportunity don't exist, we would like to assist the entrepreneur in going about developing strategies. How do I create a demand for my product or for my service? So that's another stage in the, how you say, in the recognition. So how do I go about identifying what are the opportunities or needs out there? So there are some tools out there that we can utilize to help an entrepreneur to actually go out there and search to see if there's a need for, how you said, their idea and into what capacity. So one of the steps or sources we can use is do industry studies. Go out and look at industry to see what's out there. We can also search the patent literature. Talk to customers would be another way to do it. We can look at government sources. And one of the things that I spend a lot of time doing is finding the value of existing technology. What's new out there? And try to take that idea and try to place it in those situations where it could complement or be of value, how you say, to another idea that may be already out there. So once we go through the identifying there is an opportunity or a need for the idea, we have to search to see if it's how we can develop a business concept. Now, one of the things we have found out in a lot of ideas, some ideas we might have one intention, that it could serve. Give an example. Someone had an idea about coming up with some type of developing some type of bacteria. As a result, they realized that that became known as penicillin. Viagra was someone had an idea for I said for arteries and for heart condition. Someone found another use for it. So this is where we come in, is to help the entrepreneur identify what are the needs or opportunities that we can use that idea. So I've listed a couple ideas that was redefined for business purpose. The Post-it note started off as something else. Velcro, the X-ray machine, especially Coca-Cola, started off for some other reason. The straw that you put in your drinks, and that's the one was very interesting. We had a very good research on that one, finding out that that was originally made to drink beer. And as a result, we see what a straw is today. It's almost in every beverage, people are going to ask for a straw. So what we are going to look at here in developing a business idea, we need to understand what purpose can that idea be used for. So what is so some of the ways that we can go about developing an idea for a business concept? We can approach that using what we call design thinking. This is a concept where you go in and do brainstorming or do creative thinking to determine the best way to solve the problem. A lot of times there are ways where you can do brainstorming, but just giving you two examples of design thinking is divergent thinking and also convergent thinking. As the slide shows, divergent thinking is basically pulling away from a central point to explore different options. Sometimes you have your idea and you might have to step away from it and reevaluate it from a different perspective. That's why it's good to have other people look at your idea, and they may have a different view of how that idea can be used. Convergent thinking is just opposite. It brings you back into focus. You evaluate your ideas and devise solutions from that standpoint. But there are many other tools or types of design thinking that's out there, but these are just two examples of how we would use in helping an entrepreneur, redefine the idea to ensure that it would be successful as far as in a business opportunity. A lot of you guys probably have some ideas, and I'd be interested just to know if you have had some ideas on your own and what those ideas were. And after discovering, you might have found someone else have actually introduced that idea in another way or another form. So once you utilize these tools in coming up with a business concept, then you want to develop that business concept. And it's really basically just a two-sentence statement. It would describe your customer, the benefits, the products, and how it's going to be distributed. An example of an ideal business concept could be like the one I have on the slide there. Calories Watch is a mobile app designed for fitness enthusiasts to help track their progress while training. We identify what customers are. We have identified what benefits they'll get from it and the product itself. This is basically from our using those tools in design thinking. One of the end result is what we want to do is develop a business concept. And this is what our business plan will be driven by, this business concept. Once the business concept has been developed, then we move into what we call the feasibility study or feasibility analysis. And this would assist the entrepreneur in answering certain questions about their customers, about the capital requirement, and do they have the right team put together. This process of this study involves a number of things. Industry analysis, you analyze your market, you do a study on it, your customers that you may be targeting, the product, how it's designed, what features it should have, the financial analysis, what kind of seed money that you would need to get this business started, what should be your revenue flow. But the most important part of the feasibility study is looking at the market, and answering those market analysis questions. Who would be the first customer to buy your product? So um, give an example, and some of you probably have a product, and we're working on several now on projects with some clients. They may have an idea, but they don't know who their customer, what customer would actually buy their product. So one of the questions you're going to be addressing is who would be your first customer to buy that product? What do they typically buy? How do they buy it? How do they become aware of it? So from the marketing standpoint, you're going to have to determine how you're going to reach that customer. These are some points you can kind of go through those, but the whole goal is to meet that customer needs or wants. And in a lot of cases, you might have to create, a lot of time people don't know what they want, and you have to create that based on your idea and how you market it. So these are some of the key questions that feasibility study will address. And from that study, you would definitely answer that question: do you move forward in developing that business? Now, once that business has been determined that it is a go, the next step would be to look at the intellectual property aspect of it. Does this idea need protecting? Most of this would have already been determined in the ICEED initiative. Dr. Lovelady would probably have identified this as the commercialization. Some on why this is so important. There are 3 phases of what we consider intellectual property that end up being formally. It could be intellectual capital. This is basically knowledge, organization culture, and what that just means that within your organization, intellectual capital, it could be the expertise you have in your company. You could be an expert in a certain area. This is what we mean by intellectual capital. Intellectual assets is knowledge codified. It could be how you branded yourself. It could be a logo. It could be a trademark. McDonald's, the Golden Arc would be an intellectual asset. Texas A&M or University of Texas with the Longhorn, that's the Longhorn in itself is an intellectual asset. It has value there. And then the last stage of probably the most important when it comes to a business is the actual intellectual property label. Is either you're going to patent your idea, or you're going to trademark it, or you're going to copyright it, or have trade secrets. And a lot of people often wonder about what we mean by trade secrets, and that sometimes it could just be the ingredients that you put in a certain food product. It could be just like they always talk about Coca-Cola. What really goes into the Coke is basically a trade secret. Okay, so these are the how you said the pyramid of how you will look at intellectual property. And why this is going to be important is when you decide on what route you want to go in to develop the entity for your business there. Once the intellectual property question has been addressed, then you move into the next phase of the business development process, is either developing a business model or a prototype. Real briefly, the business model process is really, we focus more so on using the business model canvas. Those 9 components, looking at the customer, the distribution channel, the value proposition, the revenue stream, the cost structure. All of these factors are looked at in developing your business model. If it's a actual tangible product, then you'll be looking at a prototype, and this is where the 3D printers are dealing with Preview and University's fabrication center, where they can probably assist you in making your idea or developing an actual tangible item that you can actually go out to customers and test to see if they will be willing to buy that product. The business model itself is is what you would use and to decide if whether or not you can make money off that business idea. So these are this step in the business development process is very important in coming up with a business model or prototype, because it is converting, as the last bullet states here, is converting your idea into economic value that will be delivered to the customer there. Now there are several factors why the business model and the prototypes are important, because it would help you to reposition your business idea. Because once you come up with your model and you go out and test it, and that will be discussed in the next step, you can determine whether or not you need to tweak it or change it, or maybe format it to go after a different target market. Okay. Or you might have to add something else to that particular idea in order to make it, how you said, feasible for the market that you're going after. So these are just some sources in developing that model. So once you look at these sources, you might find that from your idea, your business model may have to readdress that it may be more appropriate to do it on the East Coast or the West Coast. So you look at the geographic. You may have to redefine a new market for your idea. So selling the product to an existing customers. So from your business model, you'll be making all these determination to decide on how you want to launch your business for success there. Now, one of the things that we have to keep in mind, business failures are, there's a high percentage there. So that's why the business model is very important, to make sure you get it right, and also the prototype, that you use it in such a way where it could be a benefit. So let's look at why some business fail. We make predictions based on faulty logic. So that business model should be able to enable you to see how the business industry would receive that idea and accept it. Did you identify the right customers? So when you take your prototype or your business model and present it, and like in the next section, when you test that market out there, you would get enough feedback to know whether or not you need to develop that model and make it more acceptable there. So with that prototype and the model, we'll do our market and customer testing. This is the 6th stage in the business development. You want to look at and try to determine what is the customer buy, when do they buy it, why do they buy products. So you look at the cost benefits. If it's a product or business that's going to complement some other type of business, you want to make sure it's compatible to other existing technology. Is it easy to use? What benefits it brings to the table. So this market testing, you would use the prototypes, the model, and you would normally develop some type of surveys to survey your market out there to see will this product meet their needs or create a demand for your business idea. So once you have this, then you determine what kind of marketing approach based on this testing. Do I take this idea, and this is all going back to that feasibility study also, that you have to determine, do you do a market niche marketing, or do you do a mass marketing? So you determine how you want to market your business or your product out there. Sometimes the product is different from other products, so you might want to differentiate and say, yes, there are many other products or a business out there like yours, but here's what makes my business unique, and why you should see the benefits of the business that I'm promoting here. Once you identify the marketing approach you want to take, you look at step 7 in the business development process, and that's coming up with a launch strategy. At the very beginning, I mentioned to you about the intellectual property. This is where this becomes important to you, because you have several ways that you can launch your business. One, you can license your idea or your technology. So that's why it's important for the intellectual property status. Or you can sell the technology to someone else. Again, you'll probably want to keep the rights. That's why the intellectual property comes in again. Or you might want to just flat out just start your own business, start your own company, which we would talk about more in a little bit. Or the fourth one, you could form some type of strategic alliance with another company. So these are the ways that you can launch your business if you want to put it out there. So you have to come up with the best way that you know that business will be a success. But for the purpose of this presentation, let's look at it from the standpoint that you, as an entrepreneur, you want to start your own business. And many of you guys, that's probably what you want to do. So here are the options that you might want to choose in establishing your own business. But keep in mind, if it's protection, you have to look at a couple of things. And over to the right hand of the chart, you'll see what is the most protection you'll get. So starting off, either you can start off as a sole proprietorship, which is the middle. You can go into partnership, or you can go further to the left, form a partnership, or an S corporation or C corporation. Just real briefly, general partnership could be 1 or 2 people. Excuse me, not 1 or 2, but at least 2 or more people that you might want to partner with in starting a business. Okay, and keep in mind, these are people that's going to bring value to your business. Or it could be an S corporation, could be very small, but you may choose this for tax purposes. Or it could be a C corporation in itself, which will probably going to be the most expensive way to start a C corporation, because there's going to be fees that you have to pay the state that you're operating in for corporation fees. To the right, as it's stated, you might end up being choosing the option and being a nonprofit corporation or a limited liability corporation. These all have benefits from the standpoint of how you want to own your business, how you want to limit your partnership or limit the liability for the risk concern, or you just you realize that this business you started may not be very profitable, but it can make money, but it has a definite impact on society. So you may choose to look at your business being started as a nonprofit. So this is why it's important for you to really look at what are your options and what is the best method to go about to form that business there. Once you decide the actual strategy from how you want to launch it, you want to look at your operating strategy, how you want to operate your business, what personnel you need, what are the critical functions. There could be some function you might want to outsource. So these are all the things you're going to have to consider and how you want to function as a business. It could be looking at the people, the structure of your business, and also the business process in itself. But again, a lot of business, when they are started off, they might identify only certain functions they want to do in-house, and everything else would be done outside the form of their business. The financial strategy, how your business will be funded on each stages, because you're going from the introduction stage and just bringing your business out to the growth stage, to the maturity stage, and also to the decline. We realize that from what we just witnessed in our society today with the virus, it impacted a lot of business. So you need to have a financial strategy or an operating strategy for these type of situations, which would be risk management. So these are some of the strategies that you need to put in place to ensure that your business will be a success. So you need to identify at each stage what would happen, how much money you would need, and sources of funding at each one of those stages there. That leads us to what the ultimate goal that we're trying to get to is developing the actual business plan. This is, again, this is where your investors, your traditional bankers have a strong interest in. In the business plan, the primary purpose is to show people of interest the roadmap of how your business would operate. Keep in mind, the business plan just doesn't help people who are looking at to fund your organization, but you would use it as your roadmap on how your business is going to operate. So it has an internal use and also an external use. So the business plan is very important. So it shows you the benefits of the products and services. The business plan would also show who your target market, your niche market, your marketing tactics, and it help you to identify what your company is about. Once the business plan has been developed, and I would say the two most important pieces of two stages that's probably the most important would be the feasibility study and the actual business plan itself. These are the two things that's probably is going to really be the foundation of your business idea. And doing the feasibility study to identify should you go into business, and then two, the business plan to show your roadmap how your business would actually operate. And in conclusion, the whole goal is to assist entrepreneurs, I said, in launching their business idea. Because most business ideas either going to be a dream to someone that they never follow through with, or it'll just be a research project that someone never realized the potential of what these ideas could generate as far as revenue is concerned. Are there any questions?
Rick, it might be a good idea for you to pick an example, like one of the, and then kind of take existing example and see what kind of failures they had. Doesn't have to be today, in a future session, on how they actually did the failure and how did they learn from the failures, and that could be an instructional example for people like Coca-Cola, for example, or other examples you took earlier in the 6 or 7 examples you took. In a future session, it might be a good idea to go through an example.
Right, that should, and you're correct, that's a good point to bring up. Every business probably have at least failed once. Either they're going to readjust the business concept or their product, they're going to tweak it, or they might move it into another market where it could be successful. But yes, that could be a session on business failures and how the business rebounded from those failures, and what did they do different from it. But most of the times, when these business failures occur, the tools that most of them will use will be the design thinking process, that they go and analyze what went wrong, what did they do, and but usually they're going to bring in people from the outside, and that's why that design thinking is so important. But you're correct. I think that would be for another session, just on business failures and the solutions that these businesses ended up using to make their business successful.
There are also examples where an idea actually was not a failure, but a huge company decided to kind of pick them up, and then they decided that was a bad idea. So, but the company lost the company called Square, the little things that you get attach your iPad to, to swipe your credit card, for example. It's a great idea, but Amazon tried to usurp it. So the company lost some foothold for a while. It's no fault of theirs, but just like Amazon was so big, but they decided not to do that. But they lost some time in the process. So
right. And sometimes the ideas may not always just be a failure. The ideas could also be for one purpose, and someone see another purpose for it.
Right.
Give an example: the bicycle rack that's out in front of most buildings. That was originally put out as a piece of art in New York. And just so happened someone was riding by on their bicycle and needed a place to secure their bicycle, and they took the chain and put it around it.
Yeah.
And as a result, someone realized that, hey, this is something we can use for this. And so now all over America in major cities, you see this little wavy looking device out there,
Yeah.
and it was really just a piece of art.
That's right.
Okay.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
We do have a question, Dr. Baldwin. Are the resources that you described in your training today available to members of the community at large, meaning non-PV aspiring small business owners or entrepreneurs?
This information is available out there, but the part that we come in is it says people have to go in and find those resources. There's a lot of information out there that the general public just doesn't know how to, how you say, they have to be directed to know this is where you go to find out whether or not, how you said, this idea can work, okay? So those sources are readily available to the general public. It's just a matter of knowing. And there could be another session where we could probably have some type of reference develop where for people that's thinking about ideas, they can go to investigate the ideas themselves before how you say, toying around with it and to avoid failure. Let me put it that way.
I think that's a great idea for a future session. I have a couple of other questions. Is there a fee for the services that you're offering today?
There's no fee, and it's, I guess the good part about this, we have so many resources that the ICEED program can rely on. As I indicated earlier in the presentation, the School of Architecture has the Fabrication Center. So they are looking for things to, especially if it's a faculty or a staff person or a student, if they have an idea they need to have developed, they could assist them into it. The Small Business Development Center, which is pretty fortunate to have one on campus there, they are open to assist people in helping to launch their business. They have probably resources that the average person probably couldn't get to. They have access to those databases. So yes, in answer to your question, is there a fee? No, the resources are out there, and the resources that we provide in our initiative are also free.
Okay, another question. Do you have templates for business plans, or does the Small Business Center help with that?
The small business, they can help with that, but I do have templates that would take you through the whole business plan with the verbiage, the wording that you can use in developing it, and that can be made available to people that we assist. The goal is really not for us to write your business plan. The goal is to give you direction so you can, write your own business plan. Because if anyone can talk about your business, you should have the passion, the enthusiasm to, to present your business idea. If you leave it up to me, I might not put as much emphasis on certain things as what you would see as important.
Exactly. It has to be your own passion. I want to remind people that there is a brief survey in the chat box, and if you would take a few minutes to complete that, I'd sure appreciate it. I have another question. How developed does my idea need to be before I contact you?
We prefer not to have the idea just totally developed. Okay. Because as we move along, there's a lot of areas that to open up the entrepreneur eyes that he might have intention of it. If he put too much into it, he or she put too much into that idea, they're not gonna want to change it because they say, well, I done spent all this time in here and this is what I wanted to do. But what we would like to do is take the idea in its rough form and then sit it on the table and let's analyze and say, now, who could really benefit from this, okay? Are there any ideas out there like it, or technology that exists? Or maybe this idea may work best over in, let's say, in another country. Okay, so so in answer to your question, it really doesn't make any difference if it's just an idea, but you haven't developed it, or if you have already developed the idea. I guarantee you we're gonna probably look at it again and try to see, has it reached its potential? Does your idea has the potential you expect it to have? Okay.
Okay, one more question. You mentioned briefly a couple of things. You said S Corp, you said a C Corp, you mentioned LLP and LLC. Can you talk a little bit about each of those? For example, what's the difference between an S Corp and a C Corp?
Okay, S Corp, it just depends on how, as far as investors or the number of people who can have ownership into the company. C corporation, I could have as many as 100, 1,000 investors who would have interest in that company. S corporation is usually going to be a little smaller. It could be small as 15 people, 10 people. It's going to be a small corporation. The whole goal of this is, how much control do you want to maintain in your company? Okay. The more stock that you issue in the company, you've diluted your control in that company. So you have to decide on the size of the company, the control, and also the tax issues involved in it. This is where it's when you're developing your team, you would decide at that point from your team what is going to be the best formation for your company. If you want to avoid some of the risk, you're going to definitely want to be in some type of corporation format, S corporation or C corporation. If it's a company that you feel you want to have complete control and there's not much risk involved in it, you won't get sued. I said, if it's not much risk involved, you might want to be a sole proprietorship and go that route, or a partnership. So again, it depends on how much risk that you want to take. That's going to dictate how much tax issues will be a factor. Do you want to spread that risk, the tax liability, out to more people? It just depends on.
And the difference between an LLP and an LLC?
A limited liability partnership is the LLC. It's just that in that partnership or in that corporation, you limited, how you said, the involvement in that partnership. In other words, I might, in the LLP, a limited liability partnership, I might give you my money and share in the profit, but I have no say in how that business run. Okay, because that's your piece of it. Okay. The limited liability corporation, and usually professional entities like let's say an attorney have an LLP or LLC, or it's usually going to be a professional, or a doctor's office, something like that.
Service.
Yes.
Okay. All right, and there's another question. Do different countries have different models for business development?
I would say probably everyone has, the platform is going to be the same for all countries. The only difference, since you bring up different countries, when it comes to intellectual property, this is where things may get a little hairy, because what may work here in the US may not work, get an example, in China. Because protecting your idea may be a little different, okay? But starting a business, as far as how you promote it, doing the research, that platform should be the same in no matter what country you go in. You should always come up with the idea. Those 7 steps or 8 steps that we talked about, I would say in some way or form, in every country or international, wherever, they're going to go through that process. Because if they're going to be a success, they're going to have to do some type of study, some type of analysis, some feasibility study, or some business concept. They're going to need to have some type of roadmap, a business plan.
Well, Dr. Baldwin, again, I want to thank you for presenting this information. And I know that many people who are here today and those who will watch it later on the YouTube channel, which is PVAMU Research, are going to have questions and will probably reach out to you. So thank you again for this presentation today. I want to remind everyone that this is being recorded. And if you would just click on the link that's in the chat box to complete the survey. We are striving for continuous improvement. And we are having a new session on grant writing with our Office of Research Advancement. And we encourage everyone to join us. The first session will be on July 1st. So please join us on July 1st at 3 p.m. for our first session of Swing. And it is about research grant writing. So thank you again for your time. And we'll see you hopefully on Wednesday. Have a great day. Don't forget to complete the survey.